When Hindley seized the child and rushed toward the stairs, Nelly followed without thinking. "Sir!" she cried, but her voice was swallowed by slamming doors and laughter, too loud for this hour. Hareton let out a thin, high-pitched cry, a cry not of whim but of fear. Nelly saw only Hindley's back, his staggering gait, and the child's small arms helplessly bumping against his father's chest. The stairs groaned beneath them. He'd come home drunk before. Everyone was used to the shouting and cursing, like the wind on the moors. It couldn't be silenced, only endured. But he had never taken the boy upstairs. "Hareton!" she called, gasping for breath. "Mr. Hindley, please!" He turned just for a moment, smiling, a flush on his face. "I'll show him the view," he said. The attic door gave way under his push. Wind burst into the room, cold and damp, carrying the scent of peat and rain. Nelly's candle flickered. "That's dangerous," she whispered, more to herself than to him. Hindley walked to the window, opened it wider, laughing as the gust tousled his hair. "Look," he said, lifting the child, "that's the world." Hareton howled. His little hands flailed wildly until one struck his father's face. The grip weakened for a moment, just enough. The boy wriggled free, stumbled, and fell into Nelly's arms. "Mama!" he cried, burying his face in her neck. The word cut sharper than wind. Nelly held the child close. He trembled. Only then, in the hush broken by his chattering teeth, did she notice Hindley watching them. "What?" he asked softly. Fearfully she rose, shielding the boy clinging to her skirt. But Hindley stood still, his gaze showing no anger, only something lost, almost childlike. "Frances," he whispered. He took a step toward her, then another, touched her shoulder as if unsure she was real. She stepped back. "Is it really you?" he slurred. "Why did you leave me?" He embraced her suddenly, clumsily, collapsing against her with all his weight. His breath, bitter, burning, touched her lips. She slapped him across the face, instinctively. The sound echoed dully. Hindley staggered back, blinking as if torn from a deep sleep. "Nelly," he whispered, "what am I doing?" Silence fell. Then the wind slammed the window shut. "I owe you," he trailed off as if losing his train of thought. "Tell me, what can I do?" Nelly took a deep breath. "You should lie down." "No, no," he protested. "I must." He stepped forward and stumbled. "Damn it, I'm a gentleman." She rolled her eyes. Right now he looked like a village drunk. She sighed heavily. "So be it," she said at last, "but I won't ask for anything for myself." Hindley frowned. "For Catherine, and for him, for Heathcliff," she clarified. "At least tomorrow. Let tomorrow be different." She lifted Hareton into her arms. "All right," he muttered. "Tomorrow." He staggered out, leaving behind a chill and the smell of wine. Nelly lingered a while, knowing the night would be long, and not every promise lasts till morning. "Give the boy the same breakfast as us," Hindley said quietly. He seemed afraid his sister might hear. Nelly wasn't. "What are you whispering? I can't hear a thing. Hareton's been screaming in my ear all morning." He clenched his jaw. Catherine perked up. He repeated himself a bit louder, but so through his teeth that it was barely understandable. Nelly smirked. "You're mumbling like a child. Say it properly." "Damn it! Give that boy the same as us." "Well, finally," she muttered with satisfaction. "I'll go fetch him. Haven't seen him all morning." She stepped into the kitchen. "There you are," she said as he came in from outside. "Sit. You're getting breakfast like the family." She set a plate before him. "Who said so?" "Mr. Hindley." Heathcliff pointed at the food. "Is it poisoned?" "I'll poison you," she scolded. "Say thank you instead of talking nonsense." "Am I supposed to believe Hindley had a human impulse?" he snorted. "What next? Fairies on the moors?" "People change." "Not him." He stood abruptly and pushed the plate away. "I won't eat it all. I don't need his charity." He turned and left. Outside, he crossed paths with Hindley, who slammed the door behind him, ignoring Catherine's questions. Through the window, Nelly saw them bristling like dogs ready to pounce, but each went their separate way. "Has Hindley gone mad?" Catherine asked, entering. "That happened long ago," Nelly declared. "Please explain." "I heard shouting last night but thought it was nothing new, so I stayed in." "Good. That wasn't for young ladies." "Did he kill someone?" "Excuse me? If not, then why do something like this?" "No one's dead. The master had a whim, that's all." "It wasn't a whim. More like a cruel joke." Nelly frowned. "Isn't it the cruelest torture of all to offer someone hope? It's worse than poison." She pressed a hand to her forehead. "I swear I'll fall ill. I can't see Edgar now, not with my head spinning like this." It took Nelly a while to calm her down. Nelly tried to explain that people sometimes do good, whatever the reason, but reaching the agitated girl proved difficult. At last, they heard the sound of hooves, and Edgar appeared at the door. And when Nelly was finally alone, she had only one question. Had she just made things worse? He realized he'd dozed off on the bench when he heard Catherine's voice nearby. He tensed, but she hadn't noticed him and spoke freely. "Edgar proposed to me, and I told him I'd answer tomorrow." "And," came Nelly's voice, "I don't know what to say." "What made you delay your decision?" "This, and this." He saw her gesture, one hand to her head, the other to her heart. "Don't you love Edgar?" "How could I not? Of course I do." He clenched his fists and nearly jumped to his feet, but Nelly asked, "Why?" "What a silly question. I love him, that's all." "That's all?" "No, he's young, handsome, kind, and cheerful, and he loves me." Nelly stayed silent. "And he'll be rich," Catherine added, "and I'll be a great lady." Heathcliff ground his teeth but stayed silent. "And without all that, would you love him?" "No, I'd pity him." "Well, he won't be young forever, and fortunes can change. Then what?" "But he has it now. That's what matters." Quietly, Heathcliff began to rise. "Then you have your answer. Say yes." "But our souls are like fire and ice." "Then refuse him." "I would, if that scoundrel hadn't degraded Heathcliff so much." He froze. His heart pounded in his chest like mad. "If it were about him, I wouldn't hesitate for a second. Our souls are made of the same stuff, but marrying him would degrade me." Only his will stopped him from running out. "No, tomorrow I'll tell Edgar I accept. It's for the best. No use clinging to fantasies." He left the moment she said it. Heathcliff opened the door, took a step, and crashed to the floor, colliding with a tipsy Hindley returning home. "Look where you're crawling, damn it!" Hindley shouted, staggering. The rising wind rushed in. The first drops of rain hit the threshold, and a storm loomed in the distance. "What's going on?" asked Catherine. The noise brought her and Nelly into the hall. "I tripped over this," Hindley began, but Nelly cut him off. "Why are the doors open? Cold's flooding in." She shut them and walked past the men, heading deeper into the room. Heathcliff muttered a curse and moved to leave, but Catherine blocked the door with her body. "There's a storm," she said. "Let me through," he demanded, too sharply. Her heart clenched, but she spread her arms to stop him. "Never! I won't let you!" she cried desperately, sensing he wasn't planning a stroll on the moors. Their eyes clashed like blades. Only God knows how it would have ended if Hindley hadn't spoken. "You heard her. You're not going anywhere." He sounded surprisingly sober, like hitting the floor had cleared his head. Heathcliff narrowed his eyes. "I'm not a slave," he hissed. Thunder rumbled. Moments later, lightning struck a tree beside the house with a heavy crack. Catherine cried out and instinctively threw her arms around him. He held her just as instinctively, as if shielding her from the world. He stepped back, reaching for the door, then heard her trembling voice. "Please, it's dangerous." Nelly opened her mouth to echo that, but Hindley beat her to it. Kathy's right. No one leaves while the storm lasts. Joseph let out a rough laugh from the shadows. Since when do you care about that stray? Hindley flushed, heading upstairs. Nelly noticed his steps were steady, as if he hadn't drunk as much as usual. It's not about him. It's my sister's health, he muttered, pausing mid-stare. She clearly cares. Nelly raised a brow, but Catherine jumped in. Yes, I'll get seriously ill. I'll die of nerves if you leave, she declared. Heathcliff glanced at her, a flicker of doubt in his eyes. Whatever you plan, you can do it tomorrow, Nelly added, sensing his hesitation. He bit his lip, looked at Kathy. For a second, his gaze softened. Then he shook his head firmly. No, all nonsense. He turned and grabbed the handle, but the door wouldn't budge. What the hell? Nelly, smiling faintly, twirled the key between her fingers, hidden in the folds of her skirt. Maybe it's a sign you should stay, she said with a shrug. Heathcliff stayed. Nelly, caring for him like an older sister, made sure he couldn't slip away. She heard him pacing in the attic like a soul in torment, but it was useless. She sensed Catherine, despite the scene by the door, hadn't changed her mind about Edgar. The storm didn't ease. It was so strong that Nelly had barely managed to put Hareton to sleep, and now all she wanted was to wrap herself in the quilt and fall into a deep rest. She let down her simple bun, hair falling onto her shoulders. She usually cut it short, like a servant's, but yesterday the scissors had trembled in her hand. For no reason at all. She jumped when the door slammed open and immediately shut again. Hindley entered. She touched her loose hair and stepped back, surprised to see he was almost sober. She loves him, he said suddenly. I beg your pardon? Kathy. Lost in thought, he brought his fingers to his mouth and bit them, as if trying to solve an impossible riddle. Who? Don't pretend, Nelly. You know, did she tell you anything? Did they argue? Even if they did, I won't say. Those aren't my secrets. Please ask your sister. At those words, he flew into a rage. He threatened to kill the boy, to throw both Catherine and Nelly out of the house, but the threats had no effect. He lowered his head. Nelly, you're my friend, he said softly. I was blind and now I'm lost. Tell me, am I killing Kathy, my little sister? I should protect her. He covered his face and his shoulders shook as he began to sob. Moved by the sight, she did something she hadn't planned. She told him everything she'd heard from Catherine. How could she fall in love with someone like that? He burst out, still shaken. Love doesn't care, she said, frowning. You know that. At the mention of Francis, his face twisted, but he stayed silent. She was right. Hadn't he loved a woman without wealth or standing? He was a hypocrite. What right did he have to judge them? He, a broken man, demoralized and weak. He grabbed his head and paced. What would Francis say seeing him now? Pitiful and half-drunk. Not what she wanted. For him or for Hareton. He fell to his knees. I'm no father, brother, or friend, he said in a voice full of pain. Oh, Nelly. He looked at her with despair. I'm not even a proper master. I'm ruining this house, everyone in it. He gestured around. It's all holding together because of you, he said, staring at her. After all, you are the true lady of this house. Sir, she approached as he broke into sobs. She tried to lift him, but he trembled as if fevered. What have I done? I can't bear this. I'm falling apart. He hugged himself, rocking back and forth. She didn't know what to do. If he were drunk, it wouldn't be so strange. But it was clear he hadn't touched a drop since he went to his room that evening. He kept crying, wailing pitifully, until finally he raised his head and reached his hands out toward her. Please, I beg you, hold me, Nelly. Hold me or I'll fall apart. She caught him at the last moment, just before his body collapsed onto the floor. I'm holding you, she assured him, gripping him firmly, and 2 tears rolled down her cheeks. But she jumped back when the door opened slightly. She breathed quickly, faster than ever in her life. Her heart nearly leapt out of her chest. She lifted her eyes, feeling cold sweat wash over her. How would she explain this? "Mama," came a small voice. Hareton wobbled toward them. The sound of his little feet had never been so welcome. "Afraid of the storm?" she asked, reaching out. He nodded and buried his face in her shoulder. She tried not to think about the fact that his tear-streaked father was still kneeling beside her. She stood and carried the child to bed. "Want to sleep with me?" she asked the little boy. He nodded again. She rocked him, wiping away his tears. She ignored everything else, sensing that beyond the child in her arms there was something unknown, something waiting for her as soon as she raised her eyes. She was terrified. She reached for the quilt, but touched a hand and pulled back. She let Hindley lift the cover. She laid Hareton down and watched as his father tucked him in. The boy stared at him, wide-eyed, ready to flee. "Easy," Nelly said quickly. "It's all right." The child looked at her. "Your father's staying with us tonight, okay?" He nodded shyly, relaxing a little. "I'll sing to you. Try to fall asleep." She felt awkward, even though she'd sung this lullaby countless times, stroking his hair as always. But this time they weren't alone. Her voice shook. The words slipped away, but then came a second voice, low, deep, and steady. She looked up, and for the briefest moment their gazes met, but they both quickly looked back at the boy who was breathing softly, curled up and nuzzling his face into his father's hand as he dozed. They fell silent. She didn't know how long they knelt on either side of the bed, watching over him. She only remembered this. At the door, Hindley lifted her worn hand to his lips and bowed, full of quiet respect. When he entered Catherine's room, the wind was tossing the curtains up to the ceiling. She stood on the windowsill, staring into the distance. "Kathy! Don't come closer or I'll jump." He raised his hands to calm her, but slowly stepped toward her. "I can't take this anymore," she sobbed. "This tearing inside me." She struck her chest with her palm. "I don't know what to do. For God's sake, I don't know." She turned sharply. He froze in but was already close. "I said don't." Before she finished, he was beside her. "Then I'll jump too," he said. "Oh, you don't even know about Linton's proposal?" She stood silent, mouth open. "Yes, I know. I've heard everything," he admitted. She held her head, overwhelmed. "Jump if you want, but he isn't worth our deaths. And I swear I'll be right behind you." "But you were going to leave me," she whispered. "I did, but I promise I'll never leave you again." He looked her straight in the eyes. "If that's what you want." "Now you say that?" she cried, clutching at him and pounding his chest with her fists. "Kathy, when else?" he asked, trying to keep his balance. "Oh, this is madness," she shouted, grabbing his shirt and twisting it in her hands. "I'm not brave enough." "I'll be with you," he reminded her. Her grip loosened. Her face turned pale. "You mean it?" He nodded. "Just say the word." She felt dizzy. She touched her forehead, swayed, and collapsed into his arms. He carried her in, laid her on the bed, closed the window, and then knelt beside her to check her breathing. Only the sobering salts he found in a drawer brought her back to herself. She blinked and sat up. "I had a vision," she said. "It was summer. Nelly and I walked the moors. We were happy, but she was happier." She smiled faintly. She looked so beautiful. Maybe because she was holding a child. "Hareton?" "No, a girl, I think." Heathcliff paused. "Interesting. On my way, I saw Hindley leaving Nelly's room and he kissed her hand goodbye." "What?" She jumped. "Him and Nelly? You must have dreamed. Hindley's probably passed out drunk in his room." "I don't have that big an imagination," he muttered. "No one does. Scandalous," she exclaimed, then her eyes lit up. "Hypocrite. He mocks you but kisses a servant's hand like she's a lady." She hesitated, then blurted, "This changes everything. It gives us a chance." She threw herself toward him, searching for his lips. "Kathy!" He stopped her, holding her shoulders. "Nothing's certain. Hindley might be mad. He's a drunk." He took her face in his hands, wrestling with himself. "Tomorrow I'll still be a laborer," he reminded her. "Don't make hasty decisions. I'll wait." Left alone with her thoughts, the night became torture. At times she leapt up with hope, at others she sank into the covers, drowning in doubt. She battled with herself until dawn, and when the sun rose, she still wasn't sure of the answer.